Incredible story. Incredible story. So they, as I said, they even have some discussion questions, so I thought I'd just do a couple of them. The scripture actually that they had with the video was in Proverbs 16, 1 through 9. But the plans of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord, Proverbs 16, 1. So Walt and Annie planned to have children, but their plans didn't go the way that they thought they would. But just think about, what plans are you presently waiting for God to fulfill in your life? I think, you don't have to verbally say unless somebody wants to. It's just something to think about. I think all of us have plans, and we sometimes just, we get the plans all in place, then we say, okay, God, please rubber stamp that because I've got it all figured out, And, but instead, he's maybe has something even more incredible for us. I think about even this church building, and when we looked at the one downtown, and we thought maybe that was the answer, because we thought, well, this one would never be in our, I don't know, price range or be able to get this. But God had other plans in mind, and we just had to let him work. And just I know a lot of, just all within this congregation, I can think of different ways that God had a better idea. And then the mind of man plans his way, kind of like just what I said. The mind of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps, Proverbs 16:9. So what is your response to the truth that despite your plans, the Lord establishes your steps? Anybody want to say anything about that? It's kind of just what I was maybe already saying. We have our own plans, but God figures out a better way. And so, let's see. In the film, Annie realized that true fulfillment came from the Lord and not from having kids. What changed when she realized this? I know Pastor Viv has talked about this before, but really, you have to find, you may not always be happy in the Lord, but you can still have, there's a difference between happiness and joy, but you can still have joy in your heart. Even when you're going through difficult times and hard times, you might always not be happy, but you can still have that deep joy. And I think, to me, she realized that even without children, she could still have that deep joy in that relationship. That's not what she wanted. She wanted to have a family, but if God never gave her that, she could still find that deep joy. And I think that's something to think about. Anybody want to share? Okay, everybody's quiet today. And then the last thing that they had was share something in your life where you know it wasn't by chance, but directly from God. I know this church, for sure. There's so many times I can't even, she's not here to share it, but I had just shared something with Crystal this week, and I don't know if she shared that with you, Eric and Andrea. But this really spoke to me because I loved the song that she sang on the 28th, Trust in You with Lauren Daigle. And I had given her the music a few months ago because I love that song and it always speaks to me. And and so then, of course, she's been busy with everything, so she was able to do it that Sunday. And I think that was the right timing for her because there was things going on in her life, so it spoke to her. But the history of that song is that she wrote that and was in the midst of her grandfather dying from cancer. So, and she prayed for a different outcome, but it didn't happen. And so I printed that up and I gave that to Crystal at the visitation because I said, you need to know the history of this song, for this whole time. And she said, I didn't know that. I said, yeah, but God did. And I think that was not by chance that Crystal sang that song on August 28th. It wasn't. Because I think, and I don't know what all else was going on in her life, but it also was strength for her for what happened to Jerry on Tuesday. And then to find out the history, and then that is why Lauren wrote, part of the reason that she wrote that song, because going through the difficulty of asking God to spare her grandfather. So, but she still knew that she could trust in him. And there's just so many things every single day that we have where it's not by chance, but it's directly from God. And again, it's just like, it's just being in tune with him and listening for his voice.